Hello again everyone, and welcome back to the channel. In today's video we are back testing one of my all-time favourite add-ons available for Microsoft Flight Simulator, and really for any sim. I am of course referring to the Fenix Simulations Airbus A320, the aircraft previously available for Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020, and now of course also available for Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. I have had a pretty rocky relationship with 2024 thus far. I did mention previously that I don't feel currently Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 is ready for quote-unquote study-level simming, but I thought we'd put that theory to the test with a flight in the Fenix. I've got a pretty straightforward flight lined up for us here today. We're currently on the ground at Leeds Bradford, and we're going to be taking the jet on a very short regional hop back down towards London Heathrow. We've got 105 passengers on board the aircraft. Our airborne time is going to be just shy of 40 minutes, cruising at flight level 190, and uplifting just over 4.5 tonnes of fuel. We have reasonably nice weather conditions for the flight here today, certainly by typical winter UK standards. So as usual, we'll run through a full flight, we'll see what we find in terms of the aircraft. It is worth noting there will inevitably be some issues along the way, some of which will be on Fenix's end. They are currently still working through the process of porting the aircraft over to the new sim. Many of the issues that we do encounter though will be as a result of shortcomings currently with Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. As always, I really hope you enjoy the flight. If you do, please consider giving the video a like and subscribing to the channel. And if you would like to help support the content further, you can do so by becoming a channel member or patron. Okay, so today then we find ourselves back in the cockpit of the absolutely excellent Fenix Airbus A320. An aircraft which I'm sure needs no introduction to most of you. We are there of course today testing the add-on in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. We're currently on stand 9 here at Leeds Bradford, and the flight is a turnaround for us. We brought the jet up from London Heathrow earlier on today. As a result, most of the aircraft systems here are already configured. Of course, though, we do have a few items to run through here ahead of the push. So coming up to the overhead panel for the cockpit voice recorder ground control, we'll select that through to on. The IRs, we can set those back through to nav. Lights look good, we'll take the belts on. We've already got the jet fueled up. 4.7, nearly 4.8 tonnes of fuel on board the aircraft, as per the flight plan. We've got the APU running, as you can see, and we've left the APU bleed on, just trying to keep the cabin warm ahead of the boarding. With the fuel pumps, we can take those on once again. And just scanning our way around the rest of the overhead, making sure everything is configured correctly, which it is. For the forward main instrument panel, we've got a QNH of 1036 set there on the standby. Standby attitude indicator looks good. On my side for the RMP and ACP, we'll leave those as is. Weather radar and predicted wind shear are selected off. For the ECAM, just coming onto the engine page, we've got 20.5 quarts there in each engine, though the oil quantities look good. And on the hydraulics page there, hydraulic quantities look good as well. Thrust levers are in the idle position. Engine masters are selected off. Engine start selector in the normal position. Spoilers are disarmed, the park brake is set and checked, and on the right hand side here, once again, RMP and ACP2 not required. For the transponder, we've got that set through to standby, system 1 altitude reporting selected on, and for the TCAS set through to above and standby. Flaps are retracted, a little bit out of sequence, but for the EFIS selections, we've got the VOR selected on my side, same on the first officer's side, Arc 20 on both sides, and we'll take constraints on both sides here as well. For the FCU selections, we'll pre-select flight level 70, that's the stop altitude. For the departure, we'll brief that up later on. So coming down then to the MCDU, we'll select FMGC. We'll clear out our messages, so GPS primary lost, nav accuracy downgrade, and aircraft position invalid. In terms of the aircraft status, we are an A320-200, IAE engine is installed, and the navigation database is out of date, but good enough here for the purposes of our flight. Idle and performance factors look good. Onto the Init A page. Once again, departing out of Leeds, Echo Golf November Mike, and bound for London Heathrow, Echo Golf Lima Lima. Alternate for the flight today is Echo Golf Kilo Kilo. And the flight number, we're Midlands, so Bravo Mike Alpha 912. Cost index for the flight is 30. Cruise flight level, initially flight level 180. For the IRs, Just checking the aircraft position there against the chart. And the tropical pause and the winds will leave at default values. Onto the flight plan page then, departing runway 32 out of Leeds. Expecting the Nelsa 3 Whiskey departure. We can insert that. That of course takes us out towards waypoint Nelsa. From there tracking direct to the Manchester Mike Charlie Tango VOR. And that is 53 north, 002 west. After Manchester, tracking direct to Listo, Lima, India, Sierra, Tango, Oscar. We'll insert that. And then from Listo, picking up the Lima 612 airway to Honley, Hotel Oscar November. And again we can insert. For the arrival into Heathrow, they're currently using runway 27 right. Expecting the Honley 1 hotel arrival. And we'll be coming in via Bovingdon. So we can insert all of that. Again, just briefly working our way through the flight plan. So Leeds runway 32, Nelsa 3 Whiskey departure, out towards waypoint Nelsa. The Mike Charlie Tango, direct to waypoint Listo, and then the Honley 1 hotel to Bovingdon. And that takes us in for the ILS 27 right. For the secondary, we'll just make that a copy of the active. For the RadNav page, we'll leave everything auto-tuning. For the init B page, we have a zero fuel weight currently estimated at the moment at 59.4 tons. And a max zero fuel weight of 31.9. Block fuel, as discussed, 4.7 tons on the flight plan. In terms of the performance, we've already calculated some V speeds off the tablet, so we have a V1 132, VR of 132, and a V2 of 135. Going to be a config 2 departure, and on the trim we've got down 0.5. Flex temperature for the takeoff today is 66 degrees. We'll brief up in a moment. Transition altitude is 5,000 off the chart. Thrust reduction and acceleration are 2160. And initial managed speed there 250 knots. Green dot 208. On the progress page we'll just set Leeds, Echo Golf November Mike, and runway 32. So that's just about it in terms of the setup for the briefing. Again, it'll be the Nelsa 3 Whiskey departure off runway 32. That is plate 10-3 Bravo. It's a conventional SID. Initially that's based off the Leeds India Lima Foxtrot DME. Also based later on the Pole Hill VOR. That's on a frequency of 112.1. Again, we'll just leave everything auto-tuning. In terms of the notes, as we discussed, transition altitude is 5,000 feet. That's in the box. 250 knots below 10, also in the box, and not climbing above flight level 70 till cleared by air traffic. We've already set that on the FCU, as you saw. No turns below 1190. The aerodrome elevation here at Leeds is actually pretty significant by UK standards. 681 feet. So that correlates as well here with the thrust reduction and acceleration altitude of 2160. In terms of the terrain, again by UK standards, there is some reasonably significant terrain around Leeds. Highest sector MSA 3,500 feet. Our departure initially out towards the 3,300 foot sector MSA. Weather-wise pretty decent. We've got a stiff headwind around 24 knots down runway 32. Pretty cold outside, 6 degrees, but no visible moisture around, so no icing considerations. Lastly, in terms of the taxi, again currently on stand 9. We'll be pushing back into the apron, then we'll come out via November and Delta. We'll have to backtrack runway 32, there's a turning node down at the end, so we'll get ourselves turned around ahead of the departure. That's it then in terms of the initial aircraft setup. We should be boarding in just a moment's time, so that'll take around 20 minutes or so before we're ready here for the push and start. Okay, so we have now completed the boarding here at stand 9. The doors are now closed up. Ahead of the start, we'll take the beacon light on and transponder through to auto. For the before start checklist, the cockpit preparation has been completed. Gear pins and covers have been removed. Signs are on and auto for the ADIRs. Just coming down to the position monitor page. Those are set through to nav. The fuel quantity, 4.7 tonnes of fuel on board the jet. That is balanced and checked against the flight plan. Takeoff data, we have V1 132, VR 132, V2 135, flex 66. And for the barrier ref, we have a QNH of 1036, set there on all three altimeters. Below the line, the windows and doors are closed, beacon is on, thrust levers are idle, the park brake will take off. That is the before start checklist complete. So commencing the push, the engine start selector can go through to ignition start. Just waiting on the FADEX, and we'll start engine 2. So we have N2 rotation. Looks like some of the ground crew there moving away. Oil pressure coming up.
London, good afternoon, EC6441 with you, flight level 390 to Goodwood. EC6441 London, good afternoon, route direct to Saitek.
And there's our fuel flow. EGT coming up there as well, so we do have a good light off. And as usual, we'll just have to monitor the push here as well.
London, afternoon, Jetset 304 Charlie, climb flight 310, radar heading is 180 degrees. Jetset 304 Charlie, London, good afternoon. Continue on that heading, climb flight level 350.
Okay, so that looks good now in terms of the push. We'll take the park brake on. And we can release the tug. Just waiting for the start to complete here on the number 2. We do now have an available indication. Engine 1 start. And once again, N2 rotation, keeping an eye here on the oil pressure. I have to very much retract my statement that I previously made, stating that the ground traffic seemed to be more appropriate in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. That does seem to be the case at GA airfields, but as you can see at larger and more international airfields, certainly you still get quite an inappropriate mix of traffic, which is a real shame. We desperately need fly-by-wire to get the FSLTL traffic up and running again, or just flight to fix up their traffic system. Anyway, good light off once again. We do have N1 rotation, all pressure looks good. So just waiting for the start to complete on the number 1.
Midland, Midland 8865, climbing flight level 310. Midland 8865, London, good afternoon, climb flight level 330. Climb flight level 330, Midland 8865, that's the cruise please, available. Roger.
And a good start there on the number 1, we do have an avail indication. So the engine start selector can go back through to normal, we'll start the chrono. APU bleed can go off, same there as well for the APU master. We'll reset the rudder trim, arm up the spoilers. Once more it's going to be a config 2 departure. And on the THS we're looking for down 0.5 units. On the doors page all slides are armed, no status messages for us. And the ground crew are now clear, we've been replaced there with a Cessna 182. For the after start checks, the anti-ice is selected off and not required. Ecam status is checked. Pitch trim we have down 0.5 units, rudder trim is neutral. That is the after start checklist complete. Just for the sake of the video here, we'll run through the before takeoff items ahead of time, ahead of the taxi, so we'll run through the flight control check. We have pull up, pull down, and neutral, pull left, pull right, and neutral, and on the rudder, pull left, pull right, and neutral. For the departure brief, once again, runway 32 here at Leeds, it's the Nelsa 3 Whiskey departure, runway heading initially, left turn, initial speed restriction of 250 knots, and we have climb nav blue 7001 FT2 on the FMA. On the first officer side, we'll take the terrain on ND, we'll go auto brake max, we'll carry out a takeoff config test, and not ideal here as we're still essentially on the bay, but we'll take the predictive wind shear through to auto, weather radar through to system 1. For the before takeoff items, the flight controls have been checked, flight instruments are checked, Briefing is confirmed. For the flap setting we have config 2. V-speeds and thrust we have V1 at 132, VR 132, V2 of 135 and a flex of 66. ATC is set. Again, we'll just take the TCAS on here a little bit ahead of the sequence. EGNM we have takeoff no blue, and that is the before takeoff checklist complete down to the line. We'll run the rest of the line items once we're out at the holding point. We'll take the runway terminal flights on, nose light through to taxi. Once more again, in terms of the taxi, we just push back here, and we're currently at beam Charlie. We'll turn right, Alpha, and down through to Delta. Out for the holding point of runway 32. Looks like we've got a 737 there that's pretty keen to get going here as well. So we'll say we're all clear on the left. We are all clear on the right. The park brake can come off.
Cargo 410, route direct to Dover.
And the aircraft moving under idle power, which is always really great to see. Just using a little bit more thrust here to pick the pace up, clear the way for the 737. And looks as though we've got a call here from the cabin as well.
The cabin is now secure for takeoff.
Okay, cabin secure.
Well, left heading 170 degrees and we will be level 350 by Saitek jet set 304 shine. Thank you.
So in terms of the before takeoff items below the line, the cabin is secure, engine mode selector is normal, and the packs are on. That is the before takeoff checklist complete.
Shamrock 346, contact Brest, channel 132.830, right.
Once again, right turn here onto Delta. Just slowing up slightly for the turn, no more than 10 knots.
London, good afternoon, Swiss 354, flight level 340.
And now continuing down Delta, we've got the holding point for runway 32 off the nose. You might just about be able to see off there in the distance. We've got a nice strong headwind based off the windsock. And it looks like the runway is currently occupied. We've got a Jet 2 737 there down at the turning node. So we'll hold short here, runway 32. Once it's our turn, we'll backtrack and get the aircraft turned around here for our departure out to the north.
AB 88, correction, Midland 8865, route direct to Warthog. Direct to Warthog, Midland 8865. London Control, very good afternoon to Channex 231, we're maintaining flight level 350 towards Kidley. Channex 231, London, good afternoon, redirect to Saitek. Saitek, Channex 231, thanks.
Okay, so we are now lined up here on runway 32. Our 737 is now clear, and as you've seen, we've already completed the before takeoff items. The park brake is off. We'll come through to 1.1 on the EPAs. And take off. So we have Manflex 66, SRS runway, auto thrust blue. Thrust is set. Yeah, it's coming up through 80 knots, so releasing the pressure on the stick. There's 100 knots. Coming down the hill here in Leeds. And V1 rotate. Back on the stick. Pitching initially for around 15 degrees nose up. And we do have positive climb. We'll bring up the gear. We'll just manually fly the aircraft through the initial stages here of the departure. Get a bit more of a feel for how the Fenix flies in 2024. So no turns below 1190. Already up through that, making our turn out towards the west. Flight directors there, fairly sensitive in terms of the manoeuvre. And approaching acceleration altitude, so pitching down to follow the flight directives, slowly bringing the thrust levers back towards climb thrust now. And we have thrust climb, climb, auto thrusts, already up through F speed, come through to flaps 1. Just coming on the range here on the nav display.
Malta 139, contact Brest, channel 118.885, bye-bye.
118.885 for Malta 139, good day.
Jet set 743, turn right 15 degrees, report the new heading.
015, just a 743.
Thank you.
Approaching S speed, just come up through 3,300 feet. And back on the flight directives. Looks like we've got a few showers of rain there off the nose.
Tulsa 205 London, roger, continue on the heading.
Heading and requesting 37025.
Once again, for me, the Fenix really the king in terms of how the aircraft actually feels to hand fly. Up through S speed, we'll go flap 0. The aircraft is by far the most representative add-on that I've come across in terms of replicating the feel of the Airbus in terms of manual flight. Just coming up into this cloud layer, so you'll see I've taken the engine anti-ice on. DOT is currently plus 3 degrees. Accelerating now up towards 250 knots. And approaching 5,000. Just hold the after takeoff items here till we've got the autopilot in, since we're single pilots. Up through transition. We'll come on to standard. We have standard set and cross-checked. And up through 5,000 feet. That'll do us in terms of the manual flight, so we'll take autopilot 1. And the flaps are retracted. We'll get the runway turn-offs off. Same there for the nose lights. And we'll disarm the spoilers. So gear is up, flaps are up, packs are on. And for the altimeters, we've got standard set and cross-check. We'll just leave 1036 there on the standby for the time being. 1,000 to go, 250 knots now on the speed. And above the worst of the weather, so we'll cycle the signs. Obviously it's a very short sector for us here today. We'll just let the cabin crew up and around, they can start their work. So again, for me, the Fenix, really the best Airbus that I've come across. I said that previously with my review of the aircraft in 2020, but it does a far better job than most in terms of recreating the overall feel of flying an Airbus manually. Really nice feeling of weight on the controls. An excellent level in terms of responsiveness as well. There's out. It is of course always hard to judge these things to some degree. Everybody is using different hardware, different control bindings and settings, so it's hard to get a totally representative opinion on such things. But the way I have things dialed in, I think the aircraft feels really good. I'm using about a 30% reduction here on my sensitivity settings, so 0.3 negative on sensitivity for both roll, pitch and yaw. Be really interesting to see what happens with the FS Labs A321. I believe that's due out fairly soon. I think that'll be for 2020. FS Labs obviously have a bit of a mixed reputation in terms of their behaviour, but in terms of the aircraft itself, I think it's always long been established as the best simulated Airbus available, certainly at least in P3D. It'll be interesting again to see how it stacks up versus the Fenix. Anyway, we're holding flight level 70 here to waypoint Nelsa. We'll assume that ATC has given us climb via the SID flight level 180. 180 being our initial cruise altitude, so we've got 180. We'll push for a managed climb. That gives us out constraint, climb blue, and 7,000 magenta. As soon as we come over waypoint Nelsa, we'll continue the climb.
Jet set 743, descend now, flight level 350.
I think most likely I will take a look at the FS Labs A321. Please do let me know down in the comments whether or not that would be of interest to you. I suspect it probably would be. It will be quite an expensive add-on. I believe it's going to retail at around $80 or thereabouts. But I think it'll make for an interesting comparison.
To now, flight level 350, just 743.
I do suspect though it's going to be pretty hard for FS Labs to get a bit of a foothold in Microsoft Flight Simulator. Fenix have already produced obviously some absolutely excellent Airbus options for us in the sim, and covering really the 320 family. We've got the 319, 320 and the 321. What I'm really looking forward to personally is the FS Labs Concorde. I suspect that'll be some way off still. So just coming over waypoint Nelsa, and we should see, there we go, thrust climb out blue, flight level 180. Tracking now direct to Manchester. Once we're going over Manchester, we're climbing up to flight level 190. And we'll assume ATC has cleared us for that now. There's 190 on the FMA. Too steep path ahead, we can clear that. We'll check that out later on ahead of the briefing.
Typus 506 London, roger, continue on the heading.
And nicely up now through the worst of the weather. You can say many things about Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 in its current state. The sim is still very buggy, and I have to say I found it quite frustrating at times. I was quite tempted to move over to X-Plane for this particular video, just for something a little bit different, but for any criticisms you can level at the sim, it is an absolutely stunning graphical effort. The Sobo have really outdone themselves in terms of the visual fidelity. And that of course does make it very hard to go back to any other sim. Pretty difficult to give this up. I have X-Plane at a point where I'm reasonably happy with the visual fidelity, but certainly it still can't hold a candle to this.
Monarch 5901, contact London 127.87. Bye-bye.
Anyway, just coming up on 10,000 feet, accelerating out towards 297 knots here for the climb. Take the landing lights off. Engine anti-ice can go off there as well. And again, with it being such a short sector, we'll release the passengers a little bit early. Weather's pretty nice.
27.87, Monarch 591, goodbye.
We do also have a company message. I suspect that's not going to be of too much interest to us, but we'll take a look just to clear the message there on the EWD. So AOC menu, receive messages, and just a couple of load sheets for us there. Clear up both of those.
Good day, Station 6239, returning to HOTAS.
Anyway, accelerating up towards cruise speed, again cruising at flight level 190 on our very short run down towards Heathrow. We'll continue in the climb for now, and I'll come back to you again as we approach the top of descent towards destination.
Ryanair 5706, contact Maastricht, channel 132.205, bye-bye.
132.205, Ryanair 5706, bye.
United 915, climb flight level 360.
Climb 360, United 915, requesting flight level 340.
Good day, just at 743, flight level 360.
Sorry, station calling, say again.
Just at 743, flight level 360, approaching Avant.
Jetset 743, London, roger. Jetset 304 Charlie, resume our navigation direct to Deauville, contact Brest, channel 133.635, bye-bye.
Okay, so welcome back to the flight deck. A very short section in the cruise there for us at flight level 190. As you can see, already approaching our top of descent. We've also come over waypoint Honolulu, so we're now on the star. We've got Birmingham just out to the north of us, and Coventry just out to the east. Looking at the box, about another 11 miles to run before top of descent. And we're going to descend straight down to 2500, that's the intercept altitude for the ILS onto 27 right at London Heathrow. So we have 2500 blue, and about 8 miles shy still. We'll get the aircraft descending a little bit early. So we have speed descent out magenta, flight level 150, that's for the restriction there at waypoint Soppit. We'll just let the aircraft manage everything on the way down as we brief and get everything set up. So speed reducing back towards 300 knots. In terms of the briefing then, we've already got all of the charts ready here on the EFB. As mentioned, we've just come over the Honolulu VOR, and as you can see now, tracking in via the star. So for the arrival, it is the Honolulu 1 Hotel on-nav arrival, plate 10-2 Charlie 2, it's an on-nav star. Aerodrome elevation 83 feet, max 250 knots below 10, that's already in the box. Tracking in via Honolulu, then waypoint Tobit, waypoint Soppit, we want to be at flight level 150, hence the restriction. Max 220 knots at Westcott, and then 220, flight level 70 at the Bovingdon VOR. Bovingdon's the clearance limit as well, there's a warning there, do not proceed beyond Bovingdon without ATC clearance. In terms of descent planning, the notes there just confirming the profile we have here on the chart, and again as well in the box, so 150 at Soppit and flight level 70 at Bovingdon. Once more, that's going to take us onto the ILS for runway 27 right here at London Heathrow. Frequency for that is 110.3, on approach course 269, aerodrome elevation again 83 feet. In terms of the chart, it's 11-4 for the ILS runway 27 right. As mentioned, intercepting at 2,500 feet, there's a profile check there as well at 7.5 miles. And down to the Cat 1 MDA of 278 feet. With the missed approach, it's climbing straight ahead when passing 1580 or 0 DME on India Romeo Romeo. Whichever's later, it's a climbing right turn up towards 3,000. Transition altitude is 6,000. In terms of the terrain, nothing significant here around London. High sector MSA for us is 2,200 feet. Otherwise, not a bad day here in London. We are just coming down though into the cloud layer and looking at the temperature there. We'll just take the engine anti-ice on once again. In terms of the weather at the moment, the wind 2708 knots, temperature of 7 degrees, QNH is 1029. We've just got that set there on the standby. In terms of the landing, coming back onto the charts, again landing 27 right. It'll be auto brake low, idle reverse, vacating most likely off at Alpha 10 Echo, and then historically I think we would have been backtracking, park up somewhere around Terminal 1 here on the old pier. To do that then we'll select low auto brake, and we can also come down, set up everything in the box, just coming down through our vertical profile. Looks like the aircraft actually is taking us a little bit high. We'll come into open descent, we'll just keep the speed till we come through 150. Aircraft wanting to decelerate and descend at the same time, which never works out particularly well in the Airbus. So we'll just get ourselves through 150 and then we'll decelerate back towards 220 knots.
335, direct over the object, set 30, try by.
And already down through 20,000 feet, we'll take these signs back on.
Just confirmed, sir, 133635.
We'll just hold the anti-ice a little bit longer, although we are now clear of the clouds.
133635, thanks, jet set 304, try by.
Okay, so we come through waypoint Soppit. We can go managed again now for the descent and for the speed. That is going to take us trending a little bit high again, but we've got plenty of time to get back towards 70 at Bovingdon. So auto brake low in terms of the box, we've got enter destination data, we'll clear out the message. More drag required, we know about that. For the performance then, QNH again is 1029. Temperature of 7 degrees and the wind 270 at 8 knots. Transition level we said was 60 I believe going off the chart, we'll just confirm. Transition altitude is 6,000, we'll leave 65 then for the transition level, and the Cat 1 MDA 278. We've got a barrier there of 278. Flight plan's already been checked. Rad navs again we'll leave auto tuning, fuel prediction, min fuel at destination. Gatwick again is the alternate, we want 2 tons for the diversion, so showing an extra 0.9, extra 26 minutes. Plenty of time there for a little bit of holding at Heathrow.
Polar cargo 410, descend now, flight level 310, route direct to Fabric.
Lastly on the progress page, we'll go Echo Golf Lima Lima 27 right. So the aircraft is now set up for the arrival. Once again we are trending high, we'll take the speed brake. Get the aircraft coming down.
Polar 410, what is your cruise Mach number?
Once again my control binding is not working in the sim, I've set up that speed brake multiple times at this point. It's really frustrating trying to use this sim at times. Anyway, we'll take full speed brake until we're back on profile. On the progress page, currently showing about 1,500 feet high, just keeping an eye there as well on VLS versus our 220 knot restriction. Down through the cloud layer now, so the engine anti-ice can come off.
Olympic 423 London, good afternoon.
Hopefully as well we should get a nice view of London here as we turn the corner. Anyway, in terms of weights, we are below max landing weight, 66 tons, we're showing 62.5. In terms of the weather, that's in the box. For the brakes, we've got auto brake low, briefing is confirmed. In terms of the approach checks then, once again the briefing is confirmed, decam status is checked, seatbelts are on. With the barrier ref, we'll hold that for the time being, again 6.5 for the transition level, but the QNH will be 1029. MDA, we have a barrow of 278 feet. Engine mode selector is normal. That is the approach checklist complete. So just continuing in the descent for now, inbound towards Bovingdon, flight level 70, 220 knots. We're good now on the speed. And we'll just hold the speed brake again until we're back on profile. Coming down through 10, we're already back below 250 knots. We'll take the landing lights on. And once we get our clearance, we'll track onwards from Bovingdon with the ILS 27 right.
Okay, got traffic descending ahead, south to the right, slacken that off to that 1500 speed, see.
055 fuel, climb level 170.
Flight level 170 is fine, thank you.
Yeah, it's back to that 20,
I'll do flight level 170.
degrees.
Heading 150, easy, Portugal.
Okay, so we're now approaching Bovingdon 11. At the moment, still leaving the aircraft fully managed, so maintaining flight level 70, speed of 220 knots. We are going to be descending back down into the cloud once more, so we'll take the engine anti-ice on again. And as soon as we come over Bovingdon 11, we should see the aircraft descend further down to 2,500 feet. You can see we've got there the restriction of flight level 70 and going down to above 6,000 there at Delta 1270. We want the speed back at 180 knots by Delta 1270. So we'll let the aircraft descend. Once we level off at 6,000, we'll probably come into selected speed, start bringing the speed back towards 180 knots. And we'll take flaps 2 here to help the aircraft in the descent. Once again, we do have 2 steep path ahead here in the box. So we have descent out magenta, flight level 60. Once we come through 6,500 feet, we'll come on to the QNH, which again is 1029. Just come in further here on the range on the nav display. So we'll set the QNH a little bit early.
Polar 410, report your speed to London, 134.9, bye-bye.
It's 1029 on all 3 altimeters. That's put us a little bit higher now on profile. Once again, we want to be levelling off at 7. We've got thrust idle, just coming back onto our VDEV.
Ryanair 2836, report your speed to London, 134.9, bye-bye.
And the aircraft wanting more drag, so we'll come into selected speed. We'll bring the speed right back towards green dots. We'll take the speed brakes here momentarily. And we'll come through to flaps 1. Continuing that deceleration now back towards 180 knots. So we are going to need flaps 2. And again, we want 180 knots here at Delta 127 Sierra.
Channings 231, continue present heading.
In the meantime, we can activate the approach phase. And the approach phase is activated, ILS 27 right. So down through Delta 1270, we can continue the descent down 3,500 now at the next Bovingdon waypoint. And speed is checked. We'll just come into an open descent momentarily. Just to get that speed back. And then we'll take flaps 2, just giving ourselves away there from VFE next. So speed is checked, flaps 2. We'll hold 180 as per the restriction. We'll just steal a few knots there, we'll go 175. And at the moment we've still got the speed brake deployed here as well. 5,000 feet, 15 miles to run, looking good there in terms of a 3-degree profile. We have India Romeo Romeo identified as per the chart. We'll wait until we come around the corner here to arm that up. And there's 5,000 feet. So we'll seat the cabin crew for the landing. Again, just coming back onto our vertical deviation. We'll come back into a managed descent. So we have speed, descent, out magenta 3,500. And we should now be able to get rid of that speed brake. Showing 13 miles now to run. Still showing a little bit high there on our target for the centre fix. We'll see whether or not the aircraft can sort that out. Looks like we're not gaining too much speed there, so we should be okay. We'll be levelling off at 3,500 feet. The aircraft will be able to bring the speed once again back towards 3,500. Cracking view of the city here as we come in on the approach. We've got the River Thames, of course. And if we follow that out off the left wing, we've got Tower Bridge, the Shard there as well. And London City, the Millennium Dome there off in the distance. So once more, the sim can be a little bit frustrating to use, but no complaints about the visuals. As ever, they are absolutely top-notch. Okay, so 3,500 feet, still looking good there on the speed. We'll just take the gear a little bit early, just to help keep the speed in check. So gear down, take the runway turn-offs on, nose light can go through to takeoff, and we can arm up the spoilers. We'll hold 180 till around 7 miles, and we can arm up the approach. We have Loke Star, should momentarily come into the glide here as well. The missed approach altitude, once again, we said was 3,000 feet. There's Glide Slope Star, and 3,000 set for the missed approach. Got 3,000 blue. Visual now with Heathrow, and again just following the course of the river inbound towards the field. 9 miles, 2,700 feet, good gross error check. The profile looks good on the ILS. And we got cabin ready there. So just holding the landing checklist. Glide slope and Loke, just the flaps to come. We'll just hold those slightly longer. Just coming off on 8 miles, we'll start decelerating now back towards 160 knots. And that's check 2500, gear down. We do have 3 greens.
Midland 8865, contact London 129.42, bye-bye.
Okay, we'll come through to flaps 3.
London Easy 6591 with your radar heading 135, climbing 310.
And again, the speed is checked, we'll come through to flaps full. Maintaining 160 knots now, we'll keep that till 5 miles. I'm sure that Heathrow won't be particularly happy about that, but we'll just steal the extra mile, make sure we are nicely stable by 1,000 feet. There's the ECAM memo, so for the landing checklist, the camera crew have been advised. The auto thrust, we have speed, auto brake is low. ECAM memo, we have landing no blue. That is the landing checklist complete. Few little stutters here again as we come on the approach. London, of course, is one of the more intensive areas of the sim. And the Fenix as well, I believe, at the moment does have a few FPS issues within Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. Certainly I've had a couple of flights with the aircraft that have been an absolute stutter fest. And I think you can see that starting to happen here as well, unfortunately. Things just smoothing out a little bit again. There are some issues with the Fenix A320 at the moment, undoubtedly. Some of those are the sim's fault, some of those are just a question of Fenix needing to fix a few things up. They've been very rapid with their porting over of the aircraft, of course, which is very commendable. Anyway, we have managed speed. 2 whites, 2 reds there on the Pappy. We'll assume we have been cleared to land.
Easy 6591 London, roger.
And again, the aircraft's still absolutely excellent. Most of the issues I'm sure will be fixed up. Phoenix are always pretty tireless in terms of their bug fixing and updating of the product.
1,000.
That is checked. We are stable. And looks like we're back in business as well here with the FPS. So we'll take out the autopilot.
Easy 65901, climb flight level 330.
Just clear the message there. It doesn't seem to clear at the moment as a result of the side stick push button. We've got Cat 1.
Climb flight level 330, Easy 6591.
Once more, the aircraft just absolutely excellent hand fly. Nice established on the flight directors, nice and stable. Just needing minor inputs. Albeit we do have very benign, easy conditions here for the landing. Let's check to 500.
Ryanair 2836, make your Mac number decimal 80 or less.
That's checked. We've got land there on the FMA. A little bit of pop in there from the static aircraft.
100 above.
Issues like that really need sorting out. Got everything cranked up here to ultra.
200. Minimum.
We'll continue. Again, a little bit of choppiness there in terms of the FPS.
100.
Do apologise for that.
50.
Not going to make the landing any easier.
30. 20. Retard.
Okay, it's touchdown. I think we just about got away with that given the FPS. We'll go idle reverse. I really don't like putting out content with this sort of FPS, but it seems to be unavoidable currently in the sim under certain conditions. So we've got spoilers, rev green, and decel. Coming down through 70 knots. We'll cancel the auto brake. Then manual braking, we'll just let the reversers take up some of that energy. and we'll continue the deceleration here, vacating off to the left at Alpha Bravo 10 Echo. So there you go, ladies and gents. I do hope you enjoyed another outing in the Fenix Simulations Airbus A320. It is always an absolute pleasure taking the aircraft out for a flight. I do wish I could say the same about Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. Whilst again, at times the sim can be absolutely amazing, actually the more I'm using it, the more I'm finding frustrations with it. It does have to be said that most of the major server issues people have been encountering I think have now been fixed up. But certainly still lots of minor loading issues, texture issues, FPS issues, as you've seen throughout the flight. And as with 2020, given that the sim is still in such a state of flux, most add-ons are getting broken from update to update. For example, with the Fenix on my previous flight, all of the screens were corrupted, although Fenix were very quick in fixing that up. So once more, a lot of potential with 2024. I do think though that the sim still has quite some time ahead of it before it's mature. As I mentioned during the departure, I am potentially quite keen to take a look at the FS Labs A321, compare the aircraft against the Fenix and the Unibuilds versions. That will of course mean going back to 2020, so do let me know if that video would be of interest to you. Either way, of course, we'll be back for another video fairly soon, probably just one more video now before Christmas. Once more, if you really enjoyed the video, please do consider giving it a like. If you want to see more content from the channel, then it's well worth subscribing as well. And again, if you would like to help support my content further, you can do so by becoming a channel member or patron. Links to both of those are down in the video description below. As ever, a very big thank you to my channel members and patrons for all of your support. It is hugely appreciated. And to all of you, I do hope you are having a great day wherever you are. Take really good care, and I will see you all again soon.